necesita asistencia con interpretación en español, tenemos interpretación simultánea ocurriendo. Para accesar la interpretación en español, favor de accesar el icono que parece un mundo. Hagan clic al mundo y eso les va a dar un menú de lenguaje. Seleccionen español y pueden poner el audio original de inglés en silencio para que de esa manera no escuchen un eco. Si están utilizando su celular, favor de seleccionar los 3 puntitos que dice More, queriendo decir más, y allí van a poder encontrar el mundo. Y seleccionando el mundo van a irse a lo que, bueno, va a decir Language Interpretation, que es la cuarta opción antes de desconectar audio. Seleccionan Language Interpretation y eso les va a dar el menú para español y de esa manera van a poder escuchar simultáneamente. Bienvenidos.
Are we ready? Okay. All right. I'm Cindy Wyman. I will be giving the class today. It's a beginning QuickBooks class. This is our second in a series of 3. And today we're going to be talking about expenses and vendors and checks and payments and all that kind of thing. And I believe the first class was recorded. So if you want that information, I'm sure that Brian can help you get that. And just a little bit about me. Been a bookkeeper for 40 years. And I was a CFO of a heavy equipment repair shop for 30 years. So I've been around business a little bit, so I know enough to be dangerous, and I like sharing that information. So again, my name is Cindy Wyman, and we will get started. I'll share my screen, and we will just jump right in. So let's see if we can do that. Share screen, and I think I want, let's see, we'll do that. Let's see if I can make this work for us. Here we go. And this is the screen that we want, so share. So here we go. I can minimize this. And I want to just share real quick that a little bit about the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation. They are part of what helps put on these events and these webinars to help local business owners with all the things that they have to do to have that business. So a lot of times people are passionate about what they do, but they don't know about the back end. So the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation can really help you with those kind of things. They have virtual technical events similar to this, providing different tools to help you navigate that world of being a business owner. They do the webinars, so they offer lots of different things with the marketing, and that's just a whole nother world out there. There's so much to learn in the marketing, so that's a fabulous resource. And they also handle microloans. So if you need a little cash flow to help things get going, then that's a really great resource for you. So, and as I said, this is the second of 3, and we're going to talk about vendors and payments and checks and all those kind of things. So we will jump over here, and as you can see, I'm just at a Google page. Google is my go-to for browser, and what we're going to do is QuickBooks offers for anyone and everyone. They have a company they call a test drive, and it is a full-blown QuickBooks program that you can use. You go into it, you can create an invoice, you can pay employees, you can balance a bank statement, and when you close it, all those changes are gone. But you were able to go in and use it. So if you're not sure how to do something, or you've forgotten something you don't do all the time, it is a fabulous resource for anyone to use. And you can really get a feel for what QuickBooks is, how to do things, how to move around if you're deciding what program you want to use. So what we're going to do, there's a web address you can type in, but I've found this the easiest. You just put QuickBooks test drive, and you see I've got it up there. It just popped right up. So you just click that, And there's two of them that'll come up like this that say test drive. This one that says test drive on the end works best. If you click into this one and it doesn't work, no big deal, just go back and grab this one. So we're going to click this to go into our test drive company, and it is Craig's Landscaping. There it is. And as you can see, it starts immediately populating. There's number for expenses, for invoices, profit and loss. And this is available to anyone that needs it. And you can, if you forgot how to make an estimate, you can go in here and play around with it and figure it out, then go to yours and you know what you're doing. It is really a wonderful resource, and I suggest use it as much as you need, because there's some things when we're doing bookkeeping, there's some things we do every day and we learn them and oh, they're easy. There's other things that we don't do every day. It's once in a while. So it's not top of mind. So this is a great resource to go back and figure out, how did I do that? What did I do? So it's just a really great resource for you to use. So today we're going to be talking about expenses. Expenses and vendors. Expenses are the bills that you pay. Vendors are the people that you pay those expenses to. So we're going to go here on the left, and this is our menu. You can jump anywhere in the program. And I want to point out this little new button right here. It's very helpful, and I'm just going to click on it real quick just to show you. Here's your customers, your vendors, your employees, and other. This is a really quick way to jump to a specific thing, so you don't have to go click, click, click to get here. You can just go boom, there it is. So today we're working with vendors. So let's just jump to expense so I can show you. See how quick that is. If you want to enter an expense, you're right there. So that is a really good tool to use, or you can do it through the menu. And we're going to go to expenses. And so now you come to this window and you can see these are all the expenses that have been listed. You can sort them by date. You can flip it so it sorts the other way. You can sort by type if you're looking for a specific type of transaction. Payee generally is one that you will use a lot. So that works well to do that in an alphabetical order. So you can scroll down and say, you know, did I enter that? Where is it? And then this is the category that you put it in, because every expense needs a category. You got to know, was it meals and entertainment? Was it insurance? Was it legal and professional? That's the whole point of the bookkeeping, is to be able to put everything in the right category. So at the end of the week, the day, the month, the year, you can print your reports and they're going to be accurate that you had this much income and these are your expenses, but your expenses are broke down so you can see, how much did I spend on meals? Oh, that's a little high. I need to watch that. What's in miscellaneous? We know the accountant doesn't like miscellaneous, so we need to check that. Because see, there's one here that's miscellaneous. You know, you might note that there's your phone bill. Look, I paid that twice on the same day. This one isn't, but just as an example. So you want to make sure you get your categories correctly. You can adjust those, modify them. You can make them as detailed as you want or as general as you want. It just depends on your business and what you're doing. So that's a little bit about what the expenses page show. And then I want to show you here, right here. There's a new right here that's going to be your best friend. And this one right here is also going to be your new best friend. This one changes depending on what you're in. Right now we're in expenses. So the options it's going to give you are related to that. If you go into one that's customers, then that one is going to give you options related to customers. So see, if we go to invoices, you've got all your invoice options. So whatever that button is, depending on where you are, it's going to give you options specifically for the area that you're in. So it's just really going to be your new best friend. You will really use it a lot. It's very convenient. It's a one-click thing. You don't have to remember where it is, what menu it's in, how do I get to it. It makes it really easy. So first I want to start with vendors, because these are the people that we pay. And We can enter them on the fly, but I want to show you how we do that. It's really very simple. You just go up here and remember that little button that's your new best friend. See, it changed because we're not on expenses, we're on vendors. So now it's about vendors. So let's see, does it give it a different, oh, you can import your vendors. If you're an existing company and you have something in either an Excel or maybe an Access database, or you've used another program before, you can actually import the vendors when you start out, so you don't have to manually enter each one. That's a little more involved, so we won't get into it right now, but that is an option available if you have a lot of vendors to get started. If you're new and you're small and you're just starting out, entering them as they come along is fine and will serve you well. So we're going to go new vendor. And this is just as simple as it can look. I put in, this is the vendor name, and I want it to display. Now my company name is all about numbers. Okay. Now this is something, it just depends on what you like, what works for you. Because 2 and 2 is 4, 1 and 3 is 4, 6 minus 2 is 4. So I don't care how you get to 4. As long as you get to 4, that's all that matters. So however you do this, it's what works for you. It's what makes sense in your mind. So keeping that in mind, I can display this all about numbers. Should have 2 L's, but we can display it as all about numbers. If you like to see the company name, we can do it as Cindy Wyman. And that way, or we can do it the old-fashioned way. Done this for a long time, and this was the norm years ago, is you always do it by the last name. Like when you look in the phone book, it's by the last name. So it just works for you. It just depends on the relationship that you have, or the product that it is, or what, like I said, just whichever works for you, but you have the option of making it whatever you want it to be. So we're going to leave it as Cindy Wyman because most people remember Cindy, not all about numbers. And we'll put in the street address. We'll just throw that in there. And we're going to change this because that's my personal email and I use a business email. So that's Cindy M. Wyman at Gmail. Feel free to email me any questions you might have at some point. Happy to help in any way I can. There's my phone number. It's actually my cell number. I don't know if too many people actually have a phone and a cell anymore, but they might. Fax number, I don't use one of those because we have this new thing called the internet that works really well. So you can fill in as much or as little that works for you. Some people are strictly name only. That's fine. Some people want every box filled out. It just depends on you and what works best for your business. But you can put in, say I make $100 an hour. That's a joke, by the way. So you can put that in so it shows. You can use that later on. You can enter the terms. When I give you an invoice, is it due on receipt? Do you have 30 days to pay? So it's net 30. So you can put as much vendor information as you need. If you already have vendors and you have opening balances that you haven't paid yet, this is where you would enter it. So say last month I billed you $125. Now that'll show as of 11/30/2020. Did you notice that? I'm going to go back. When you enter the date, if you're in a date field, you don't have to put the dashes. So it's 11/30/2020. You can even just leave off the other and it will do it for you. So just FYI there. And so as of that date, that's what you owed me. So that'll be in your system. So that's how you would do that. If you have an account number with me, then that would go here. Business ID number, social security number. Now this is important when it's someone that you're paying rent to, because rent is important. It's important when someone is providing you a service. So if this was your company, Craig's Landscaping, and you're paying me to your bookkeeping, see, that's a service I'm providing you. So because of that, you're going to give me a 1099 at the end of the year. Anything over 600 for the year, you would give a 1099. So that's when this is going to be a must. And you can either have a business ID number, which is usually a federal identification number, or a social security number. You're going to have one or the other. And generally, that's when you want to make sure you have that along with a W-9, which should be in a file. So that's a government form that says, hi, this is who I am. Here's my ID number. And if you ever got audited, they would want to see those. So you would put the ID number in here, whether it was the federal ID number or social. And then you want to click this box. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, it wants you to put it in a format. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. It likes the format better. So now I want to track for 1099s, because at the end of the year, if you've paid me over $600, you're going to need to do that. You're going to need to send me that 1099. So you can save it. The other thing I want to show you, one more field that we didn't talk about, and this I think is an important one. What could our note be? What do I need? What does the company need to know about this vendor? And we'll put bills monthly. Because once a month, I'm going to send them a bill. And I want paid by check. I want them to send me a check once a month. I bill monthly and I want them to send me a check once a month. Pay me by check. So if I put that right here in the notes, then we save it. And then we look at that vendor. Now look right here. It shows bills monthly, paid by check. So that when you know that when you see something there, it's something that, you know, it's just a friendly reminder of something you need to know about that supplier, that vendor. So that's a real good one to use. So, and you know, if you entered something wrong, no big deal. Just click your edit and just change whatever you need to change. Easy peasy. If you accidentally entered 2 vendors the same, or if there's one you don't use anymore, just hit your make inactive. There's no delete. There's a make inactive. And then later on, if you went, oh man, you know, I need that, you can go back and make it active again. So it's real simple. So whatever you delete in QuickBooks never goes away. It's still there. Sometimes it's a little tricky to get it back, but it's still there somewhere. So QuickBooks is just really forgiving, user-friendly program in that respect. So this is how we would enter our vendor. And now we're going to save it after we made our change. Now it shows my opening balance. It even lists as opening balance, so you know what that is when you look at it. So that's pretty much how to enter a new vendor. Now we're going to talk about right here. We're going to go up here to this handy dandy new transaction button. And what are my options? Well, time activity is something that revolves around time. Maybe you're going to bill a customer for it. It's more of an advanced feature. So it's not something we'll go into a lot today, but you can associate the expense with a particular project or job or invoice, whatever it may be. And then now we have bill, but we have bill, expense, and check. Okay, those in one respect seem like they're all the same thing, but in QuickBooks, they're 3 different things. So first I want to talk about checks, because if any of you still use a checkbook, it's writing a check. It's as simple as that. It's writing a check. So because I was in this vendor record, this vendor information came up. Now it's like, oh no, I didn't want to pay Cindy today. I want to pay, let's see what's in there somewhere. We're going to pay Pam today. So now see, all this changed. Okay. So we're going to write her a check out of which bank account. This is really important because this is where it's going to post to your checking. Because when you write a check, it's a 2-sided transaction. It is it's an expense you're paying. And then the other side of that transaction is, where did you pay it from? because behind the scenes when you're bookkeeping, everything has two sides. So when you're doing a check, you're doing both those sides of that transaction in one. So you're paying the expense, it gets put in the category, and then you're paying it out of checking, so it comes out of the checking account. So it's done with one transaction, but it does both sides because everything's always two sides. So this is the payee. Pam is going to get some money. I'm going to pay her out of the checking account, and real conveniently, it shows me the balance. So that's nice. And then it has all the information I need. You can put in your check number. You can print now or you can print later. Just depends on whichever works for you. And right here is where you're going to put what category is this? What are we paying Pam for? And as I said, you can get as detailed or as general as you like. So maybe Pam does, oh, she's a CPA. So she would be, because if you see right here, it's CPA. So we're going to pay her as a professional service. And look right here, we have legal and professional, okay? That's the heading. And then we have underneath it, we have accounting, bookkeeping, lawyer. So we're going to put her under accounting because that's what a CPA does. It does accounting and files your taxes. So we're going to put that under accounting. It's a subcategory under the legal and professional. And we're going to put right here, anytime you see description or memo, those two things are available to print on reports. So again, it's how detailed or as general as you want to be. You might want to put on here, this was third quarter profit and loss. Okay, so you know why we're paying Pam. That's going to show. That's going to come up when you print reports if you want that much detail. Now, if you pay her once a year to do your taxes, then maybe that's not necessary. It just depends on whichever works best for you. So you've got to customize it the way you want, which is fabulous with QuickBooks because it allows you to do that. So next, we're going to go to amount. We're going to pay her $100. Well, that's an accountant, so we probably should do 200. They're a little more expensive. So anything your bookkeeper can do is going to save you money in the long run that your accountant's not going to have to do, just FYI. So the more you can do ahead of time, it's going to save you in the long run. And these next two things, most people aren't going to use, but what they are is we have billable. Well, is this billable to another customer? If this was, she went out and she mowed somebody's lawn, then we might want to, that's billable to that specific customer, whoever's lawn she mowed. So you would want to do it as billable. Now, most people aren't going to track that way, but it is available. But that's going to be something more advanced, and but it is available if it's something you want to do. And then the next one we have is tax, and that's if it's taxable. And this is two schools of thought. If I'm buying $100 worth of office supplies, then I'm going to pay tax on that. Well, do you want to have office supplies 100 and then tax is $8? So it just depends. I don't know a lot of people who use that feature. It's really much more advanced than the average, new business or small business. Everything I entered, it would be office supplies, $108 total. I wouldn't separate it that way, but you do have that capability if that's something that's important to you. And then again, when you do billable, you can add the customer's name and it will keep track that that's an expense for that customer. So for most people, this would be it. Now, let's say she did our profit and loss, and maybe she's going to do we'll do legal and accounting again, accounting, and see whatever you put, it's going to pull up what you comes up with that. So, so that's accounts. Let's see, accounting. See, it'll bring it right up. So you can use the drop down, or you can start typing in and it'll pull things up. It's still the same expense, but I want to know that she did 2021 budget. Okay, so now I know I owe her another $250 for her budgeting my 2021 year. So actually I owe her $450, but I want to be able to look at this later on and know, even though it's all accounting, I want to know that, oh, how much was that budgeting? See, now it's right there for me to see. So you can break it up to whatever expense it is. You know, maybe you were out of office paper and she dropped off a thing of office paper for you. So you would put office supplies, office expenses, supplies, just whichever you prefer. And you can put paper. So now you can pay her back that $25 for that paper she was kind enough to drop off for you. And that's a different category and it's correct. But by putting in the description, you're not going to look at this later and go, well, why would I pay Pam office expenses? Because I don't know about you, but you know, I used to, when I was young, I would think, oh, I'll remember that. Well, no. And especially now that I'm a little older, I'm not going to remember if that just says office expenses. I'm not going to remember next week, next month, next year when we go through the budget or whatever we're doing. Like, why did I pay Pam office expense? What's that? What did I do? Well, because I put this in the description, see, then it's going to take away all that. Oh, that's right. She dropped off some paper. So it's going to save you later on if you use this type of thing, or that's one of the ways that I use it. So now we're writing a check. We have some options. So there's our total. We can also write in the memo. Memos show up also. We can put this as the December statement. That's the December statement that we paid, so we know where we got this information. And what happened to our office? There we go. I don't know why I don't know why it's doing that. That's kind of strange. Where'd we go? Category details. Look at that. See that? Item details. See, you can look at it different ways. So if something happens and things disappear, don't worry about it. If nothing else, jump up here to the X, close it out and start over. QuickBooks is very forgiving. Okay, so we're going to jump down here. That's our total. And now these are our options. We can save and close. So it's recorded our expense and our payment. We don't need to print the check because we paid with debit when we were there. Or we can do save and new, which that's generic to a lot of things throughout the program. So we want to do another one. Down here, we can print our checks, order checks. Just a little side note, ordering checks from QuickBooks is generally more expensive than if you order them anywhere else. So just FYI, sometimes it's worth it to pay the extra just because you don't have to mess with it, but it is an expense and it is generally cheaper elsewhere. And you can also make it recurring. If all it was this profit and loss and she bills you that every 3 months for every quarter, then you could make that recurring. So, you know, every 3 months, that's going to come up. You can set it as recurring to come up. Your rent, you can set as recurring. Sometimes your phone bill, you can set up as recurring. Your insurance, you can do those things so they come up and they're recurring, and then it makes it a little easier because that'll pop up and remind you that that's due. Generally, you have a more button, and it's just kind of depends on what's happening here, what it's going to give you. In this case, it's void. It's like, oh man, that's just wrong. I don't want to do that. You can just void it and be done. You can also just do X and not save it. So the option is yours. So we're going to do save and close. Oh, something's not right. Look at that. You must select an account for this transaction. Well, let's see. Why is it telling us that? It probably has something to do with this. So we're going to delete that line and we're going to try it again. Office expense, paper, $25. And let's see. Oh, see, it's not staying. I don't know why. So we're going to delete that line and go on, and we'll pay her the $25 for the paper next month, or we'll just give her a check when she comes in. So we'll save and close. And that's pretty much how you do a check. So a check is going to be, you're going to pay it and count the expense, and you're going to do the check. And so it's coming out of the checking account. So it's a complete transaction. It's done both sides. So it's complete. You don't have to go back to it. If we go back over here to banking, and we wrote that out of the checking account, we're going to look at the bank register. And let's see if our check shows up. Pam, look at there. The date, the check number, we wrote a check. It's to Pam. It's for the December statement. Remember what we wrote in that memo? Okay. And then we paid her $450. So there it is. It did it for you. So that's nice about doing a check. It does both sides of the transaction for you. And if we go back to vendors, whoops, that's not vendors, is it? And let's go over here and find Pam. There she is. Now look here. We wrote a check to Pam and paid the December statement. Is split because it's more than one line. Remember how we did the 2 lines? We did the profit and loss and the budgeting. We did it on 2 different lines, so we have that breakdown. So that's why it shows split instead of just one category. But there it is. When you look at Pam, you go, yeah, oh yeah, I paid that December statement. There it is right there. So it shows it everywhere. So it all links together and works together beautifully. So next, let's talk about a bill. Because we're going to go, let me just stay here. Now, bill is one of our selections. Now, what this is going to be is a little bit different. This is, you got the PG&E bill, you got the phone bill, you got the rent. Let's see, I made this little list just so we can practice. We've got maybe the telephone bill, we've got some gas that we bought for the month, and we have some auto repair. So what we're going to do is we enter them as a bill, not a check, because we're not expensing and writing a check today. We're not doing that. It's a bill that we're going to pay later. So this time, the bill, you're doing one side of the transaction. All you're doing is putting it in the expense, and it's going to sit there and wait for you to pay it. So you're going to do that as one transaction, and then when you choose to pay it is the second side of the transaction. So it's the same thing, but instead of one transaction together, it's done separately. Because you might have, a big auto repair bill or something, and you're only going to pay half of it now and half of it in 30 days or something like that. So let's enter a couple bills because I want to kind of show you how this works. So bill, choose that. And because we were on Pam's vendor, then there it is right there. But we're not paying Pam, we already paid her. So we're going to go over here and we're going to pay Hall Properties. Now that's already there. Click on it. There it is. This is our rent. We have to pay our rent every month. So December 2nd, it's due by January. This is where your due dates come into effect. Your due on receipt, net 30, that kind of thing. That's where those come in. And we don't need that. And we're going to actually, the bill date is, we'll take that. It's rent or lease, it's building lease, and it's $900. So that's all we need to do. So now that's category detail. You can also do item detail. So like with Pam, if you did something extra, like maybe you had to pay some building maintenance fee, or you flooded the kitchen, so they're going to charge you, $100 to fix that or something, or to clean it up. So you have the 2 different items, categories and details. So we're going to save and schedule a payment. I don't want to schedule a payment right now. I just want to save it and go to the next one. So I'm going to do save and new. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to do PG&E because whether you like it or not, got to pay PG&E. They never give up. So it's got all our information. It's a net 30, so I see it makes it due in 30 days. Still, now this one, we got this, it's dated 11/28. Oh, see there, we're going to change that and it changes our due date. So we're going to go down here. We don't need tags. This is our utilities, it's our gas and electric, $86. Has anybody ever had an $86 PG&E bill? Well, maybe back when I started looking. So we're going to put $500 on that. Or what did I put? 720. Let's put 720. Because if you got much of a business, well, I shouldn't say it like that. That's not correct. If you have a building that you're working out of, you know, and it's a pretty good sized building, you're going to have a PG&E bill, and they get high. So if you've got something like a landscaping and design, they're going to have a shop, they're going to have a warehouse, they're going to have an office. So your PG&E is going to get up there. So again, we're done with this one. So we're going to do save and new. And now the next one that we're going to do is Cal Telephone. And like PG&E, they don't give up. You get billed every month. Now they come in on the 25th of the month, and see, now look, this one says due on receipt. So it made the due date 11/25, not 12/25 in 30 days. So this is where this comes in on the vendor record. So it's utilities telephone, and it's $56 a month. And we're going to make that $423.18, because with all those trucks and all those employees, there's more cell phones, and it's not $56 a month. So we're going to do that, and we're going to save and do new again. And now with the landscaping, there's a lot of driving around. They've got several trucks. So you have gas every month. So you've got your gas you've got to do. And I would imagine when you get a bill for gas or fuel, it's usually due on receipt or very quickly. This one doesn't have one, so it makes it the same day, but you can change it here. This is due in 10 days. Now see, look, it changed it. So again, it just depends on how much detail or general that you want the program to work for you. This is fuel. There we go. Fuel. And we're going to go right here and grab the fuel. And the fuel is $1,216. And we're going to do save and new because we have one more. Now we had to get new tires for one of the trucks. So we're going to go to discount tire. It doesn't come up in the list. So this is where instead of starting a new vendor like we did before, we can do it from here. So if they're not in there, it's the first time you've seen them, you can go, oh, look, we'll just add it right here. And you just add their name and you do save, and they're a new vendor. And then later, if it's important, you go back and you fill in all your vendor detail, but it doesn't stop you right now in the middle of your transactions. So you save that, there they are, and see this didn't fill in because we haven't done it yet. So our bill was $11.30. It was for the end of the month. And it is due by the 15th. So we're going to do net 15. And the bill number, if there's an invoice number, that kind of thing, I've kind of skipped over it, but that's what that is. So statements generally don't have numbers, but if it's an invoice, it will generally have a number. So you would want to do that. So this is auto repair. So let's see what we have for auto. We have automobile fuel, and automobile general. Well, this is repair. So I'm going to put auto repair. Well, obviously that's not there. So let's add it. And now we're not adding a vendor. We're adding a GL account to the chart of accounts. So this is a little bit different. So you can do it from your chart of accounts, or you can do it on the fly like this. And it's always going to look exactly the same. This is an expense. Well, it's certainly not advertising. So we're going to go down here and we're going to find the one that fits the best. And sometimes you got to kind of look. So maintenance and repair. So we're going to put, we want it to be auto repair. Now, it's a subcategory of automobile. So you're going to have automobile, then you're going to have fuel, and you're going to have auto repair. So you'll have all your automobile things together, but it'll break it down into fuel, into repairs, into whatever else you might have going on with your vehicles. Maybe you have the expense of the, what do they call them, the tracking that you can put on the vehicles when you have a fleet of vehicles. You put trackers on them so you know where everybody is and you know how they're driving, all those kind of things. So you might put that under there. So we want that to be a subcategory. Subcategory, let's see. We don't want it a fuel, we wanted an automobile. See there, it told me I did it wrong. I want automobile. So we're going to save and close that. Now look, that comes up right there. Okay. And our discount tires, it's $496.11. There happens to be a discount tire here in Fresno on Blackstone that is fabulous. If you need anything, his name's John. It's wonderful. And he does more than just tires too. They do all kinds of stuff. John will take good care of you. So discount tire and $496. And we're going to do, this is it. We don't have any more to add. So we're going to do save and close. Look at there. So that was simple as that. That was entering the bills. Okay. And what that does, it just puts the expense in. It hasn't paid it, but now you know that you owe those. So if you go back over here, you go to vendors and you hit this little one right here, because these are the ones you can sort by, remember? If you click it, it's gonna sort by it. Well, you can click, see how it changed. This one doesn't have a down arrow, but see how the pointer changes? Look, well, those are all zero. We'll see the arrow, we can flip it. These are all the people that you owe money to. So at a glance, you can say, look, that's what I owe. Now you can run reports, probably 5 or 6 different reports that will show you that. But for most small businesses, this is going to work beautifully. So something else, let's see what this email and inactive, so we don't need that today. So you're going to know that those are the ones that you're going to pay. Now, if we go to expenses, go down, you know, we entered all those bills, we're going to have to pay them. So let's see, can we pay them all today? Can we pay part of them? What is exactly is due right now? So remember, this new and this new will also, when you have one right next to it, it's also going to give you things that are helpful. So this one is order checks, pay bills. Well, we want to pay bills. We're not going to order checks today. We have checks. So we're going to pay bills. Now look at this handy dandy little screen right here. And this also, you can do the reports. And depending on what you like, some people prefer to print out a report and have it and look at it, or maybe they need to prepare it for their boss. They do AP data entry, and they prepare that and give it to the boss, and then they decide what needs to be paid. So there's lots of reports and things you can do. This, if it's a small business, generally will be sufficient. So here it is. Now these little red exclamation points, guess what that is? That means it's past due. So these are things you might want to pay first, unless maybe there's an insurance or something like that that would trump that and take priority. So you can filter it in lots of different ways. You can do it by date. You can do it by payee if you want to just see a specific payee. PG&E, I think there's more than one. So we'll pick PG&E and I'll show you. And we can do apply. Now see, it just shows our PG&E. So see, we owe 2 PG&Es. So we go back, we can see that little X right there. We no longer need that filter. So we're going to click that X and look, it goes away. So this right here, filter, we haven't talked about it, but this is going to be in several screens that you use. There's going to be a filter at the top. And the filter, again, is going to change depending on which part of the program that you're in. So you always want to look at that, because it's things that, like I said, they're going to pertain to whatever it is you're doing, and they can be really, really helpful. So in this case, you can go by date or by payee. So that's something that might be helpful for you. So let's see, who are we going to pay today? Well, that PG&E is past due, and we know we have another one down here. So let's make sure and pay that PG&E. We need to pay the lumber because they're not going to give us any more if we don't. And let's see, insurance is always important. Phone is important. And let's see, how much money? So now let's see. That is current account balance. Oh, 157. Goodness gracious. So look here what we didn't do. A payment account. We're not going to pay this with the MasterCard. We're going to pay this out of the checking account. See, now it automatically changes your account balance so you know what it is. So let's go down here on the bottom and go, oh, look, account balance, and we need to pay that. We don't have enough money. So it's real easy to go, okay, we're $200 over and we need to leave a little. So let's see, got to pay the PG&E. We could maybe pay half of the lumber bill, pay $100 on that, make that 100. And then the insurance company, that's pretty important. Insurance is pretty important, but we do have a 30-day leeway, so we're going to take that out altogether because insurance usually has about a 30-day leeway. Don't quote me, but generally. And then the telephone, because we certainly cannot have our telephone cut off, and it is in the red. Now, the bookkeeper, she'll understand, let her know we'll be able to take care of that next week. And then we know coming up, these are things that are going to need to be paid. So it's right there at your fingertips. You just click the ones you want, and then you make adjustments in the amounts if you need to. And now look, now we've got $751. We're going to pay $609, and that's going to leave us $141. But you don't want to go too low. You always want to leave yourself a little buffer. So now we're going to schedule payments online. Now that, unfortunately, I can't show you because it's going to go to my personal bookkeeping and show you the bills that I pay. But what that does, if you set it up, is it goes to your online banking. And if you've got the telephone company and the insurance company or PG&E set up in your online banking, it'll take you to that. And then you can just go pay, and you're done. So it's really, really convenient, really simple to use. Takes a little bit of setup, but nothing too much. So that's an option. What other option do we have? Because we have a drop down, so obviously we have other options. And we can save this. We can save it and print it, or we can save and close. So we're going to go ahead and save because we don't need to print the checks right now. So we're going to save it. Okay, and we should have done a save and close, and I didn't. So we're just going to close this right now. Okay, now we pay. What did we pay? We paid PG&E. So let's look at our vendors and see what that shows. Does that show on our PG&E? PG&E. Now look at there. Right there, it shows bill payment. We did a bill payment. We wrote a check, and there it is right there. So that shows that now that's been paid, and now we just have our new bill of $720, which is a lot more realistic. So, well, I guess it depends on the business, but now, so see, it shows we've got that. And then if we go to banking, we wrote it out of the checking account. Let's look at the check register or the bank register and see, is it showing? There's our PG&E payment. Okay, so it's going to take it off the vendor because it's paid, and it's going to put it in the checking. So now that payment is going to come through. Now, we didn't print checks. Okay, so we know that PG&E is set up, they're automatically going to take that money. So you don't have to print a check, or it's going to be on the online banking, so you don't need to write a check. But that's the way you enter the expense. It's there, it's in the books, so you know what it is, but you're not necessarily paying it today. So the first one was checks, and that's we do the expense and the payment all at the same time, one transaction. And then we have the bills where we enter our bills. We can see them, we know what they are, and then we can go through and do bill pay and pay what we need to pay. So the other one now is expense. And it's very similar to writing a check, but it doesn't print a check. It does both sides of the transaction in one. It does, puts the expense in the right spot, and it pays it from whatever account you choose to pay it from. So if you use a debit card, this is where I find a lot of people use this type of when they use the expense. So we'll go back to our vendors over here in expenses. We're going to go to our vendors, and we're going to go back to our happy little buttons up here that we love. And we don't need a new vendor, do we? Because we need to be in expenses. Oops. So now we're going to go to expenses, and looky there, it changed. So now we want to do an expense. Okay, so we're going to click on that, and you're going to see it's pretty much the same thing as writing the check as far as the look goes, but it's not going to let you print a check later on. So if you do transactions that are debit cards, this is generally how you would do it, because it will do both things. So let's see, let's enter a payment. What are we going to do? Oh, we're going to go to Bob's Burger Joint for lunch. Who doesn't love a burger? We're going to go, we went there for lunch, and it's coming out of our checking. It could come out of the savings, but it's coming out of the checking. And we did that on November 30th. We paid it, and right here it should say, let's see, does it say? No, it doesn't say debit. So what are we going to do about that? Add debit. That's the name. It's not a credit card. We're going to do save. So now we can go back, and there's reports we can run later and go, you know, this employee and that employee both have debit cards. I wonder what they spend. So you'll be able to print a report later by expense, by debit card, and you're going to know how much they're spending real quick. So just different things like that. Again, it depends on detail or general, but that is one way that you can use that. You can even do it like I just created debit. You can do debit dash John. So you know that's John's debit card. So again, it just depends on what's going to work best for you. That's what that's for. If there's a receipt number or an invoice number or something like that, you can put that in there. Down here, we're going to put meals. Okay. Now, when you do meals and entertainment, that you don't get a full write-off for that. And you've got to be careful because the IRS doesn't like you using it. So there's two different kinds of meals. There's meals and entertainment. You took the client out to lunch to discuss the new project or to thank them for the project or what have you. And then there's travel meals. Now, travel meals are 100%. So make sure you categorize that correctly, because at the end of the day, it's going to make a difference. You're only going to get a percentage of meals and entertainment. You're not going to get all of it. Travel meals, you will. The other meal, which is a little different, you might want to categorize differently, is if you bought lunch for everybody in the office or everybody at the job site. And you can categorize that a little bit different. You can put meals dash job related. Then you're going to get that full write-off. So it's best always to talk to your accountant to make sure that you're doing that correctly. But that is a way that people, they don't realize, and they lose some of the deductions that they could have, because you really do need to break that down. So, but in this case, it's just flat out meals and entertainment. And because the IRS doesn't like it, I want to make sure and put on here a description. So we're going to put a new client meeting, and it was Susie Jones. So then there's no question. And then also when you do this, when you have that paper receipt, you want to write on there. Write on that paper receipt and write on it, new client meeting, Susie Jones. So this is going to match later on if, God forbid, you were ever get audited. And Also, and I'll have to see if we can do that. I know on the app you can. I don't know if I can show you that on online. But one thing you can do is if you have that receipt that you paid that in the app, which is fabulous, by the way, you can do probably 95% of what you do online, you can do on the app. So user-friendly, and everything's at your fingertips. It's really an amazing app and very user-friendly. They call it capture. In my world, it's taking a picture. So you take a picture or you capture that receipt for Bob's Burger Joint, and right there you can put on it, it's meals and entertainment, it's for Susie Jones for a new client meeting. You can put it right there, and then it's all done. You don't have to do this. You capture it. So that's a feature that unfortunately I can't show you this way, but if you ever want to know, I can feel free to call me and we can do something with the Zoom and phones and I'll show you how to do it. But very simple, very easy. So make sure you do your meals and entertainment correctly. And how much was that lunch? What's Bob Burger Joint? So we'll put $27.90. And be sure to include the tip. But if you add a tip, make sure you add it write it on the receipt also. So, but make sure and do that. And none of these things apply. We don't have any more to do. So we would do save and close. We would have save and new. If we had more than one ATM receipt, we could enter it now, but we don't need to do that. So we can do save and close. Now, there it is. There it is. So if we go back to vendors and we look at Bob's Burger Joint, what would that be here in Fresno? Burger Joint. Oh, big question. Everybody likes a different burger. Anyway, I digress. So here it is. We paid it. Now this one, it shows memo. So we want it to show right here because see on this one, they bought lunch for the crew. So they need to make sure, and actually that should be categorized a little different because they're not going to get their full deduction for that. So it's like, oh, we didn't do that. So all you have to do, and this is generic throughout the program when you're looking at anything and it's got the lines, the details, just double click on that baby. Look at there, pulls it right up, so easy. Sometimes this sticks, I don't know why, but it's like, okay, where's my memo? There it is right there. So we're going to put new client Susie Jones. Now, and let's see, we did pay it out of checking, so that's accurate. Save and close that again, takes us right back to this screen. Now look, now it shows you new client Susie Jones, add a clients. Sometimes if there's a memo, the memo will show in more places than the description. The description will show on reports, but the memo is going to show up more frequently on different screens versus having to do a report for it. So if you like that feature, I suggest you go scroll down a little bit and find the memo because that's going to show better on your screens than the description. So versus having to run a report. So we go to Bob's Burger Joint. We know we took Susie there. And there you go. That ATM is entered. The other way you could do it is with the capture. And on this also, let me open that back up. Down here, we have make recurring. So let's see what happens. So we can make recurring. The template's going to be scheduled, create. We don't need to create it in advance. It's Bob's Burger, it's come out of checking. Monthly on the day, the 1st. We want every month. We're going to choose the day it starts. So every month is going to create it. Now we wouldn't actually create this for Susie client meeting at Bob's, but you might do it for your health insurance, your liability insurance, your rent. You can do it for any of those things. So let's see, let's do one for rent so you can see what that looks like. And what was it? It was called Hall Properties, I think. Let's see, a template name. We're going to put rent Hall Prop. That's what we're going to call it. And we're going to have it scheduled. versus a reminder. You can do it just as a reminder or an unscheduled. So maybe you just want to do a reminder, but we're going to do schedule. We're going to create it 0 days in advance. We don't need to do that. And our vendor is Hall Properties. There we go. It's going to come out of the checking account. And we're going to do that on the first day of each month. And we're already past December 1st, so we're going to start this on January 1st. Now, this is a new year, so if you don't put the year in and you do your date, it's going to put in 2020. So for this, because we're at the end of the year, you want to make sure and put in the year, because that way it's going to show correctly. And we don't have an end date. We're just going to leave it there for a while. And we usually pay this with a check. And now we're going to go down here. And it's not meals because we're no longer at Bob's. This is rent. Okay, rent. Rent or lease. That's going to, and it's going to be, this one's kind of obvious. Hall Properties, it's rent. That's all we ever pay them. So do we need a description on that one? It's just up to you. And our rent, what did we decide our rent was? $2,000. They had 900 in there, but we'll put our 2,000. And then down here, we don't need this, but see, here's the memo. And that's going to show on your, so you could put in here monthly. Monthly has an L, monthly rents. And then that's going to show. And we save the template. So it's there. It doesn't show here. Well, that's off. So of course it doesn't show there. Let's go to Hall Properties. And it doesn't show, but next month on the 1st, it's going to come up and it's going to do just this right here. It's going to show it and it's going to come up that we need to pay it. So it's automatically going to put it in there for you. So you can do the recurring. You can do recurring in a lot of things. So let's see, let me move that out of the way. Okay, so that's our checks, our bills, and our expenses. Now, the other thing that we want to talk about is credit cards, because that's kind of a different ballgame. It's a little different. The checks, the bills, and the expenses all kind of blend together. They're a little bit different, but they're a little bit the same. Their credit card's different, so I wanted to do that separately. So let me ask, before we go any further, I've been talking for an hour, for goodness sakes. And does anybody have a question? Is there something that I missed or I didn't explain well? Or do you have a question specific to what you do that I can answer for you before we go on to credit card? What do you think? Let's see, do we have, let's see, I think I can do that. I don't know, how do I do minimize this? And we'll go ahead and we'll go on to credit cards. Okay, now credit cards are a little different. You can do it a couple different ways. You can do it as one check to MasterCard. So we could do this. This is an option. It just depends on what you want to do. So we're going to go new, and we're going to write a check. And we're going to write a check to MasterCard. Okay, MasterCard. And we're going to add it. That's a vendor. We're going to save it. Okay, we're going to pay it out of the checking account. We're paying MasterCard out of the checking account. And the 11th, that was the date of the statement. So now we have several things on our credit card. We might have some charcoal that we purchased because that's a new product. So we need to add that in there because it's not there. So we're going to add our charcoal. It's an expense and it is a job. Let's see. We have job supplies and materials, and it's charcoal. So we're going to have that. Are we not charging? Oh, hold on just one second. I've got to plug this in or it's going to turn off on us. Sorry about that. Oops. All right, let's do this. Get up close and personal. There we go. We don't want it to die on us, so sorry about that if I'm too close now. That's where our cord reaches, so that's what we'll do. So we have charcoal. So we added our charcoal. Let's see, did it take it? Okay, it did. Okay, and our charcoal was $142.18 because we do landscape design, and we've decided we've started doing barbecues, gas and charcoal. So that's one of the things that when we finish that up, they need charcoal to use that barbecue. So that's an expense. And we bought charcoal. We entered it as a job supply, so we're good. And now we're going to save that. Okay, well, we're not going to save it because there's more than one thing on the credit card. So we could list item by item by item and do it. You send a check to the credit card company and there you go. You're good to go. Now, all those expenses, instead of being under charcoals or us, and you see that's how much you spent, or what are some of the other ones I did? Let's say, let's do an office expense. It was office expense was $37.62. Now, you're not going to know that you went to Office Depot to get that. If you go look at your vendor, which is Office Depot, it's not going to show because you paid it under the vendor of MasterCard. So it just depends. Either way is fine. It's going to be which way works best for you. So if you want to be able to look up Office Depot and see how many times you purchased and what the amounts were, if you want to look at charcoal or us and see how many times you bought charcoal, and you know, in this month it was higher, this month it was lower, so you can kind of help with your budgeting, then you're not going to be able to do that with this type of entry. Now, if it doesn't matter and you don't need any of that, or that's not important to you, you're just starting out and you don't need it, then do it this way. It's boom, it's one check. You do all your individual lines, so you get your expenses in the right category, but then you're done. So this is one way to do it, okay? So we're gonna just X out of this because I wanna show you the other way to do it. So no, we're gonna leave without saving. There we go. So what we're gonna do, now there's, I don't know, about 912 ways to get to banking and check register. This is what works for me, so that's what I'm going to show you. We go to banking, and looky there, there's all of our bank accounts. So we're going to look at the MasterCard, and we're going to click on Go to Bank Register. Easy peasy. Now, if you forget and you go to banking, and it's over here on checking, and you hit Go to Bank Register, no big deal. I don't want to look at the checking account. I want to look at the MasterCard account. So I go down here, see the types of accounts. I go down here till I see credit card. Look at that. There's MasterCard. So either way. But to me, that's the easiest way. It's just, I don't know that this. Let's do, because it would just depend. You would have to make two different payments because you're gonna do one. Let's go back to bill pay. Let's do it that way. So bill pay. So you've got it in there that you owe it, right? So you owe, let's see, this gas bill is a lot and you don't have enough money. So you're going to pay from checking and you're going to pay $100 here. And you would process that, would save it. Now we go back. Yes. Do we want to save? Yes. And then we're going to go up here and we're going to switch it to savings. And it's going to pay it. And we're going to pay $500 out of savings. You would have to do it as two different transactions. If you want to pay it from a different source, a different bank account, a different credit card, a different savings or checking, it would have to be separate transactions. So we'll pay $500 that way and we're going to save that. Now, we don't want to make any more payments, so we probably can do like save and close right there. Oh, no. Something's, oh, no, there's no bill selected, so we'll just X out of it. So now we're going to go over here to, was it discount tire, I believe that we just did. So let's look here. So I think it was it discount tire? I think it was. No, it wasn't. Who did we do? That was was it the fuel? Let me show you something. Since I did that, it's a good time to show you. Let's go back to expenses. Let me show you something. So we're going to do a new expense. Now watch. Now this is going to come up several times in the program too, and it's going to be, look right here, see where it says expenses. See this little clock that's going backwards? Look at that. If you click on that, there's the last one that you, well, it should show the last one you did, but it doesn't. Look at, make a liar out of me. But we did bill pay, didn't we? So let's go not to expense. Let's go to bill pay. Let's see this amount. Look at there. It's on bill pay too. See there? We paid chins. There. So that's the bill. And look here. Here's the payments. 2 payments made. See, there they are. So it's chins. And that's what we paid. So let's go look at chins as a vendor. So we're going to go to vendors. And we're going to go to chin. Apparently that's where you get your gas and oil. And see, now it shows 2 payments. It's not going to show you where they're from, but it shows you that you made 2 payments. Now, that knowing that is important to you, then if you go back into it, go back and use your memo and put this was out of the savings. So you can put on here, paid from savings. Paid from savings. And then when you save and close, yes, you want to do that. It's going to show you paid from savings. So that would be a really good place to do that. So we paid the bill. It's expensed here. It's in the category, but when we make the payment, we know that's a check and that was paid from savings. So Brian, does that answer the question?
So yes, you're right. We are a nonprofit, and so we have various grants that come in. And so our rent, for example, is split among different grants when we pay it. But what I was noticing when you were walking us through the process for setting up bills, on my version where you have customer or consumer, it says donor project, right? And,
oh, right.
And it doesn't let me split it at that section. So what I'm assuming is that in the bill description, if I have rent for $2,000, I'm going to list rent or $1,000 to a specific donor, and then another line of rent for the other $1,000 to the other donor.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're not talking about paying it from a different account. You're just needing to apply that to a specific donor.
That's right.
Versus donor versus customer versus client, whatever it is for you. So yeah, you would just make 2 lines on the bottom there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. So good. We answered her question. That's a good thing. So I don't see any more in the chat box, so we'll go on. Let's see, where was I and what was I doing? Let's see, we were talking about credit cards, I do believe. So I'm going to grab a drink of coffee because I've been talking quite a while. Oh, good coffee. Don't you love it when you have a good cup of coffee? Okay, so credit cards. We talked about just doing it as an expense, paying the credit card company, and everything's on one. Well, if you go to banking, go to your banking, and you want to look at your bank register, and in this instance, we want the one for the MasterCard, so we're going to go down here and grab that. This is it. This is what we owe our credit card right now. That's our balance on our credit card. That's what we owe. Now, this is, whether it's the checking or the saving or the credit card, this is generic for whichever one you're in. So you can do this. There's lots of ways to do the same thing. So it's whichever one works best for you. But for credit card, I've found that this is the easiest way, the most user-friendly. So right here, we can do credit card expense, a credit card credit, bill payment. We can do all those things from right here. So we're going to do a credit card expense. And we're going to go back here to this little credit card bill that I made. And you can put in the date, it's 11/20. And I don't need to type or a number. If you want, you can put a number in it. The payee on this one is Charcoal R Us. And looky there, that's not in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add it again, real simple. You can go back and put your details in later. And there's the memo. So in this case, I don't think we need it because it's Charcoal or Us. When are you going to buy charcoal? So in this case, I don't think we need the memo because the name of the payee explains it for us. And that was 142.18. We're going to add that. Now, what account is this? Didn't we add a charcoal? Look at there, right there. That's our charcoal expense. So we save it and we go on. Now look, it added that to what we owe. So now we're going to do another one. And I'm going to do a few of these just like if you got a credit card statement. So you're looking at your credit card statement and it has all your charges, line, and you do that. So this one is Office Depot. So on 11/15, we went to Office Depot. Office Depot. Oh, we don't have an Office Depot. What do we have for office supply? I don't know. We'll put it in. Let's just add an Office Depot. Why not? Office Depot. So we're going to add that vendor in. And Office Depot, unless you bought a printer or something like that, Office Depot is kind of generic. So again, I don't know that we need the memo. So you could put paper if you want. That you had to buy that paper because you ran out and Pam was so kind to send you some. So our Office Depot was $37.62, and that is office expense. Makes sense to me. So now we're going to save that, and we're going to go to our next line is on 11/20. We went to Red Robin. Do you see a trend here? I'm a burger girl. Let's see, Red Robin. There we go. There it is. And this, now that's a meal. So what do we want to do for a meal? We want to mark that it's a meal for, this is for clients. This is a new client. This is a thank you. Maybe this was a travel meal. We went out of town. We've got a job in Visalia and we had lunch while we were there. Well, that makes it a travel meal. So let's put it under travel meals because we want that not there. It was, let's put in the amount, it's $51.32. And we're going to put it here. Now, if we put in meals, it's going to bring up both of those. So you could click one or the other. So, or if you type in travel, it brings it up that way also. So just to show you how it works a little bit. And we're going to save that one. Now, let's see, what do we have now? Oh, we have the sprinkler store. So imagine that. What do we buy at the sprinkler store? So on 11/8, we went to the sprinkler store. Sprinkler store. Okay. So look at there. It's not there. So we're going to add that. And then once you get going, a lot of that stuff's going to be entered. You're going to have to do it like that every time. But I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it really is. So sprinkler store. Now it's sprinklers, but maybe this time we had to buy just sprinkler heads. So we're going to write replacement heads. So when we look at that, we know why we spent that on that day. Because sprinkler store, because that's going to be things you're using for jobs. It's not just a generic office supply. So you might want to break that down or be able to look at that and see that later. Okay, this was sprinkler heads, this was line, you know, the sprinkler line, you know, just the different things. I don't know what all you buy for sprinklers, but that's the two things I can think of. And what did it cost us? It cost us $170.51. And this is job supply. Do we have job supply? We have job expense. Let's see, we have job materials. Here we go. So what do we have under job materials? Sprinklers and drip systems. Looky there. So that's where we would put it, and we save it. So that's going to break that down for us very nicely. And we'll have one more thing on our credit card statement. And that was on November 9th, which happens to be my birthday. A fabulous day. And we have garden. This is, let's put it's Home Depot. Over there. They don't use Home Depot. I can't imagine why. So Home Depot. Now Home Depot, you can buy a whole lot of stuff. So what did they buy at Home Depot? Maybe they bought fertilizer. Fertilizer. That's it. So you want to know. So Home Depot, because it sells so many things, you might, in that case, you might want to use the memo. Again, detail general. It's up to you. So that was $286.12. That's a lot of fertilizer. I could make a comment, but it probably wouldn't be appropriate. So that's a lot of fertilizer. And that is also going to be, I believe it was a job supply. Look at their job materials. Let's see. For plants and soil. Fertilizer, I think, fits in that category very well. So we'll save that. Now look, we owe $845. Oh, Lord Almighty. That was a big bill for this month. So now let's see, how are we going to pay this? We've got a credit card, MasterCard. If we go to our expenses, let's see. Home Depot is one of them. Let's look at that. So I want to show you the difference. Instead of being a vendor that says MasterCard and it just says MasterCard and you paid X and you don't have the detail, this is going to put everything on the actual vendor. So if you go to Home Depot, you know, it shows. Now, if you notice here, it says credit card expense. So that when you look at that, you know that was paid on a credit card, because see, you have no balance due because it's not due to Home Depot, it's due to MasterCard. So that's the difference. It's either going to show on a screen on a vendor that says MasterCard, and it's going to be one lump sum for the month. It's not going to show your detail. You're not going to be able to pull up the individual vendors and see what was done. So that's the difference. Just depends on which way you want to do it. Both are accurate, both work. It just depends on what works best for you. So now let's see. Okay, now we got this credit card bill in there. Oh my goodness. We need to make a payment. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to make that payment? Let's see. Okay, so new, look here, other. Now, why it's done under vendor, I don't know. They don't consult me with these things, but it's under other. So right here, pay down credit card. So it's there. And then also, if we go here, we're going to have pay down credit card. Now, it's not for Home Depot, but we can still access it from here. So we go pay down credit card. Now we get this screen, and there's that. I don't know why that does that. Oh, good, it went away. Okay, so which credit card are we going to pay? Because you can have one credit card, you can have 100. It just depends on how you do business. So we want to pick the credit card we want to pay. In this instant, we have 2. So we're going to pay that MasterCard. And optional, we don't need that to say Home Depot. We might say this is the December. Oh, what does it want? Oh, it wants an actual payee, but we don't need that because we're just going to pay the credit card itself. So how much do we want to pay? Well, if I remember correctly, our balance was getting a little low, so we're just going to pay the $85 minimum balance. And the date of the payment is today, so that's 12/02. And what did we use to make this payment? What account? Where are you paying it out of? Paying it out of the checking? Paying it out of the savings? What are we doing? So we're going to pay this out of the checking. Okay. and I made a payment with a check, you can do that, or it was you went online and did it. So just whichever. Now here again is your memo. So you could put something like, this is the December statement. So that might show somewhere. You can also add an attachment. You took a picture of it or you scanned it, there it is. And you can attach a copy of the statement. Now, if I remember correctly, I didn't mention it, but this is available pretty much whether you're doing a check, an expense, a bill, that's available. And that's the online version of what Capture would be. So for this, you would have to scan it and attach it this way versus when you do it in the app, it's as easy as taking a picture, a couple clicks, what it is, and save. So I think it personally, I think it's a lot easier to do that with the app. But again, it just depends on which way you want to do it. Some people will attach everything. Some people do nothing. One thing about if you do want to attach your receipts that way, then you have them digitally and you don't have to save the paper. That's a big deal. All that paper makes a lot of people crazy. They don't know what to do with it. And they touch it 14 times. And you really want an office where you never touch anything more than 3 times. You'd be much more efficient and a lot less crazy. So the attachment can be a big deal. It might be an extra step now, but you're not going to have that paper to deal with several times. Oh, now it's in this pile. Now it's in that file. What do I do that file? It's the end of the year. Do I save the file? How many years do I save the file? So attachments can be a really big help if that works for you. Like I said, it just depends on which works best for you. Some are a little old school like me and they want the paper, and some of you youngins want it all digital. So either way is fine, but it's an option and it does have its benefits. So here we paid down our credit card. We paid the MasterCard. We're paying it out of the checking account. We're paying the $85 because that's unfortunately what we have right now. So we're going to save and close because see, maybe we have more than one credit card we're paying, but we don't today. So we're going to save and close. Now, if we go back over here to our banking and we want to look at our bank register, there's our payment. December statement, see that shows in our memo. And we paid $85. Oh, so now, oh gosh, now we're overdrawn. So we're going to have to make sure and get some money in there. Now let's look at that's where we made the payment from, but let's look at our MasterCard. See it posted on your MasterCard too. There's your December statement. Now you owe a little bit less. Instead of $845, you owe $760, and you got another month before you have to make another payment. So that's the difference with the credit cards. You can do it as the MasterCard. You can do it on the MasterCard bank register. So then you can go back and you can look at the individual transactions on the actual vendors that were on that statement. So it depends on what works best for you. So the only other thing I was going to show you, and I don't know, let's see. I'm not sure how many people this would apply to, but for small businesses, it does tend to come up. So over here, we have our expenses, and we're going to do new expense, or we can go over here, look at that. We can go over here and grab vendor expense. So where did we go? We went to Starbucks. Starbucks and burgers. Life is good. So we're going to add Starbucks in there. Why it would not be there is beyond me. But we're going to add our Starbucks. And you know what? I paid cash for that. I didn't pay it out of any account. I didn't pay it with my debit card. I didn't pay it with any. I paid cash. The old-fashioned green. So I'm going to put cash in here. And look at that. It doesn't come up. So this is one way you can handle the cash expenses. So we're going to do it bank. It's cash on hand and it's cash. So we're going to save that. So now that's going to cut and see it's a balance is 0. And on 12/2, is there a cash? Look at that. And we're going to go down here and we're going to do meals. And that's just meals and entertainment because you bought it for you and your client. And so that's going to be a partial, so it wouldn't be travel. We're not out of town. So we're going to put on here our description is we're with Susie, what was it, Susie Jones. We're going to put her name on there. And 2 Starbucks is what, about $12 now, something like that. So there we go. Now you were able to pay cash and then we save it. Now, if we go back to banking, one of our accounts is we can look at is cash. Looky there. And it's overdrawn by $12. So you're either going to take money, you can take money from your checking, write a check to cash and put it in. You can make a deposit to that cash account with either if it's a sole prop, you can do it from owner investment. And that's where the cash comes from, is it's the owners investing that cash. So it just kind of depends on what you're doing. But that way you can track your cash receipts the way that you want. There's other ways to do it also, but this is a quick way to do it. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I see, or I thought I saw that there was another question, but I guess not. I thought I saw that pop up, but oh, gas mileage. Okay, you can track mileage in QuickBooks, but it's not necessarily going to be something you enter like this, like we're doing now. So I've not the mileage. Let's look at it. I've not done it, so I don't know. I don't do mileage. So let's see what it is. So you can download your trips, view your vehicles. Let's see. Let's put in a vehicle and add a vehicle. And it is a Kia Sorento. So, and it's a 2011. And this is, you're going to have to do this because it matters when you bought it, how much you bought it for. You have to do this. So this is going to be generic to this or any mileage program you use. You're going to have to do this part in the beginning. So yes, I own the vehicle. How much did it cost? I don't know. We'll put 10,000. I don't have any. I don't remember. Date you bought it. We'll put it as of the 1st of the year 01/01/20. That way we used it for the whole year. No, I didn't give you my date. Oh, we don't want to move years. No. There we go. January 1. Here we go. So date placed in service would be the same. It'd be January 1st. And then it had, I don't know, 10,000 miles. And at the end of the year, the start, and then you have to put the end, 15,000. So total distance driven, 5,000. So you just have to go through and put this in for what you need. Make that the primary. Let's save it. It's not wanting to save. Or van, I don't know why it's not wanting to save. But you would have to enter. So I would have to play with this a little bit. I don't do it much, but you're basically going to enter the information here, and then it's going to allow you to do on this date in this vehicle. This is the mileage. This is the end mileage. This is where I went. So you're going to have to do like a line item type thing. There are apps that are really user friendly that you can import into this. So if you'd like, I'll get your name and I will research that a little bit for you and get you a better answer, because unfortunately I don't use the mileage a lot. I do all my mileage the old-fashioned way. So with with a tablet and where I went. So that's how I do it, because I don't have a lot of it, and I don't have a lot of clients that use it. So that would be there. And I think I saw something else come up. Let's see what else. Let's see, gas mileage for an independent contractor. That would just be a separate line item. I think Emilia asked that question. Let's see. We would just go to expenses. Let me minimize that. And we would add a new expense. And say they paid me and I drove to their other location. And we're going to pay it out of the checking account. There it is. That was today's date. And they're going to pay me bookkeeping. So we're going to make a line for our bookkeeping. And this is December books. And it was $100. And then we're going to put a second line. And we're going to put mileage. It's not there, so we're going to add it. So it's an expense. And this is one that we can put it under auto. So we're going to put mileage, and we're going to put it as a sub account of auto. We wanted a sub account of that, and this is mileage. And we would put it's vendor mileage. So it's what they're paying me. So you would put it here, you would save it, and then you would put it here. And then I charge them $20 to drive to Larry or something. So then you would pay me the total you owe me, but it breaks it out because this is not your bookkeeping. You don't want to do that, so you want to put it in the mileage. So you would save it. So it would be just as, it would be like that. So I hope that answers that question, if that was what she was asking. Access to, I just wanted to look through this real quick. I don't recall. Then okay, get a copy. Yes, there's the, okay. How do we access? Yes. Okay. I don't see any more questions. Does anybody else have a question or something specific to their needs? Something that I can maybe try and answer for you, and I'll do my best to get that mileage, maybe do a little tutorial on the mileage for you. And so you'll be able to utilize that. I know it's on the app. So if we don't have any more questions, I think I'm done for today. That's everything I had for expenses and vendors and checks and payments. Oh my. So if there's no more questions, Brian, I think I'm all done with the class for today. I'm more than happy if you want to call me or you want to email me, you have a question you want to ask. If there's something I can help you with, please don't hesitate to call or email, and I'll see what I can do to help you get it figured out. So thank you everybody for being here with us today.